The Events of the Battle of Normandy by Troy Reif. Event number 1. The first thing to happen on June 6th. The British 6th Airborne, the US 82nd, and the more famous 101st, they were to land behind enemy lines, but sadly most drowned in the flooded fields. A good idea by Erwin Rommel. At dawn, Mallory ordered bombers to strike bunkers to help the invading boats. At 6:30 a.m., the landing crafts hit the beaches. Utah landing first and was the most successful beach landing. The U.S. took Omaha and Utah, Canada took Juneau, and the British had Sword and Gold. Over 9,000 soldiers died in this attack, most at Omaha and Juneau. That's why in most movies and games you land at Omaha. Event number 2, June 13th, 1944. The remaining U.S. Airborne were told to take the German-occupied city of Gerecht. The German 6th Regiment were holding, but didn't have enough units to do much against the 101st. At midnight on June 12th, the German 6th Regiment was finally resupplied by the 17th Panzer Grenadier Division. On June 13th, the American 506th and 501st Company joined in the skirmish. At midday, the fully resupplied Germans counterattacked the 506th flank, which was the weakest. The 506th were outmanned and outgunned and had to fall back. As they retreated, the Germans tried to push through the opening with the Tiger tank, but an American soldier with an M1 bazooka took the tank out. The Americans, realizing their flank was exposed, they tried to cover it, but the Germans counterattacked again and were merely held off. After this, 2 American tank companies came in and the Germans retreated. Event number 3, from June 26th to the 30th. The companies landing at Utah Beach. Their main job was to take and secure the city of Cherbourg. The Germans knew it was an important city, so Rommel set up many bunkers there to defend it. After the American companies struggled to take the city, the British sent out one of their best squadron, the 30th Commando Squad. They entered Cherbourg, taking over 500 soldiers captured and 20 German officers. This must have been a big hit to the Germans. On June 27th, the city was officially taken over by the Allies. The picture you see below is of Major General Collins, the acting general for this battle, and the mayor of Cherbourg thanking him for his brave service. The mayor here is Paul Renault. Person number 1, General of the Armies Eisenhower, was in control of Operation Overlord, even though Field Marshal Montgomery hated the idea. But he had to give in because the U.S. had more soldiers. Eisenhower decided to land in Normandy and what cities to take. On June 5th, he wanted to send the boats, but bad weather held him back until June 6th. On the eve of D-Day, Eisenhower was giving speeches to his men. In the bottom corner, you can see him talking to the 101st Airborne. He did such a good job in World War II, the Americans chose him in the heat of the Cold War because they knew he could handle the stress and de-escalate the situation. He became the 34th President of the United States. Person number 2, Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery. He wanted to be the leader of Operation Overlord because he had more experience in combat situations, but because the U.S. had more troops, they had to give control over to Ike. He took charge for all the ground forces in the battle, so he did get some control. He was heavily criticized, though, for how slow the operation was moving. Person number 3, Air Vice Marshal Mallory. He planned all the parts of the Battle of Normandy Air Force missions, mainly on June 6th, aka D-Day. He would get help from Air Marshal Arthur Tedder, who wanted the position because he was a higher-ranking general in the British Air Force. The Air Force had 2 main jobs. Number 1 was taking the paratroopers behind enemy lines, and number 2 was bombing the coastal bunkers to help the invading forces. A cool fact about Mallory is that he owned his own personal Hawker Hurricane, the same type of plane that Elsie McGill produced. Sadly, in November 1944, while traveling with his wife, his plane crashed, killing all passengers. It seems his love of the air was his downfall. This is my bibliography.